It happens in this league. Look, these jobs are not like Supreme Court justice jobs. You don't get these jobs forever. Okay? You don't get these jobs like this and you go, hey, you have them for a lifetime. But there are certain jobs and certain people in those jobs where you go like this, like a Mike Tomlin, and you go like this. Hey, dude, whatever you want to do, we're good with. You want to leave? Fine. You don't want to leave? We're fine too with that. That's how they handled Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Tell you this, they handle coaches in Pittsburgh 10 times better than they handle them here in Philly. You guys take dog shits on these coaches. No matter if it's Andy Reid or Doug. You just take a giant dump on them. Because you know what? The greatness of Bob Lang and all these guys have to make the narrative right. Becton was flat out a bust before Stoutland got his hands on him. Yeah. He totally was. The Jets, he was injury prone. He stunk. Becton comes to Philly, and guess what? Bang. Lurie and his impatience is killing this team. Leave the coaches alone. This is the NFL. It's hard to win. In the Super Bowl year, can't blame Nick. This is on the owner. Dude, Nick Sirianni didn't do this shit by himself. No question he didn't. He doesn't have that autonomy. The owner has to be in on this. All right. Want to get rid of him? Fine. Sure. You know why? The owner thinks it's him. He's not Bob Kraft. Get this through your head. He's not Bob Kraft. They empower people in New England. Why do you think I've been asking you that question for the last couple days? Heading into Super Bowl 60. You think he's Bob Kraft? Based on what? Since Bob Kraft has owned the team in 94, this guy's been almost 40% of the Super Bowls. That's every fucking 2 years the Patriots are in the Super Bowl under his regime. Whether it's Parcells or Bledsoe or Brady and Belichick or now Vrabel and Drake May. They've got 3 separate regimes that have gone now. That's not a coincidence. That's how you operate. Get this. That Brady run wasn't long. It didn't suck enough. 3 years of bad ball back in the bowl. 3 years of shitty football. 18, they won their Super Bowl, right? They had one more year of 13 wins. Then they went down to 10-7 and some shit. Then they had 3 bad years. Now they're back in the Super Bowl, 14-3. What? How'd that happen? And what separates that dude from that guy? Simple. Bob Kraft hires Nick Caserio or Scott Pioli and a head coach. And you know what he says? Go do your jobs. And he manages those dudes. He doesn't manage and micromanage everything else. Bob Kraft doesn't have his hands and all that other bullshit. They don't give a shit who they take. Patriots going to get smoked. Not the point. Not the point. Dude, they triple you in Super Bowls. And he's owned the team since 94. Same time that Jeffrey Lurie bought the team a year later, 95. Well, what's the difference between those two guys? Well, they found Brady. Well, they know how to develop him too. And by the way, you know what their patience was? They had a 10-year gap where they didn't win a Super Bowl. They didn't shit the bed and quit on Belichick or Brady. They had a 10-year gap, a decade. They didn't win a Super Bowl. They didn't blow it up. They knew they were doing the right things. They kept their patience. They kept their coaches in place. Then they went on another one. That's having conviction in what you do. That's not listening to people talk shit to you and tell you when a little bump in the road comes, and they take a shit on you. That's exactly what some and many organizations like the Jets do. The Jets do that shit. As soon as a bump hits, they're out. That's loser franchises. You know, there's a reason the Pittsburgh Steelers have been considered one of the gold standards. And now the Patriots. You know why? They believe in what they do. They believe in their people. They have backbone in what they believe in. Hey, man, we were down for a decade. I still believe in what we're doing. Went on to win more Super Bowls. That's the difference. Lurie sees some bullshit that starts going south. He doesn't like something. Fire a coach. Fire a coordinator. Bang. They don't do that shit. That's why they got more Super Bowls than you, and they shouldn't. Listen, I'll say it again. I think the Philadelphia Eagles do a ton of shit things well. Like, the things that, like, out of the rest of the organizations, nobody's close to you guys. I'm talking about the Chiefs, the Patriots, organizations like the Rams, the Steelers, like that. It's a great, hey, Sales, we had 2 collapses in 3 years. It's time. You think 2025 was a collapse? Who was in charge of that collapse? Isn't that your coach? So wait, Tricks. In 3 years, you had 2 collapses in your eyes. And your coach had no answers. And the answers are now to fire Jeff Stoutland. Or kind of a pseudo fire. Get the fuck out of here. That's his answer? Sales organizational issue. They believe that win in spite of players and coaches. Stout is a huge loss. Biggest self-inflicted wound ever. I agree 100% with that. That's a self-inflicted wound. By the way, so let me ask you something here. I'll tell you what a player does. So when I was a young kid and I had Leroy Selman in the building, and Leroy Selman, the greatest 34 end that's ever lived. Okay? Greatest 34 end of all time. Mean Joe Green says that. Everyone. And he was on the first team 100 greatest players team. He is the greatest end. You know what we all did? We asked him questions. How do you play this technique? How do you play this? How do you do that? How do you do that? You think I'm going to ask a fucking 23-year-old kid how to play the 3 technique? Based on what? His lack of inexperience? Or a guy who was on the 50th, 75th, and 100th anniversary teams in pro football history? You think you're going to ask that guy? That's like Jeff Stoutland being in the building. He's coached all type of styles of players. You lose a mountain of wealth when you lose a dude like that. It is a mountain of wealth. I'm over Stout now. Okay, we had the pity party. Yeah, but you're missing the point, Michael. If you're making dumb decisions like this, you're capable of anything. You hire a 33-year-old guy who's a nobody, and now you're hiring Ryan Mahaffey. I'm sorry I have to keep looking because I've never heard of the guy, to replace Jeff Stoutland. I'm looking at the accumulation of things, not just one thing. One thing's not going to derail you. 5 things will. Seals, this feels like when dumbass Cowboys fired Jimmy Johnson. You know, it's funny you bring Coach Johnson up. I was reminded of that. You want to hear something? So Jimmy Johnson had one guy that he made sure followed him from Oklahoma State to Miami to Dallas and to the Miami